Hey everybody, just wanted to make a quick video here kind of describing not only the what, but the why and the how to complete a drop set. On Monday, we're going to utilize a new training stimulus called a drop set, which is pretty popular in the bodybuilding and strength community, but not something that we typically do in CrossFit. So first thing to understand is the idea of the overload principle. This idea that you're physically training the body to continually work past where your normal limitations are. And we can do that with weight, we can do that with speed, we can do that with technical difficulty. But on Monday, we're gonna use a drop set to overload our legs. So overload principle will apply in the drop set. Now there are a couple of things you need to know. Athletes are gonna be given about 10 to 15 minutes of time to build to a 10 rep heavy. That doesn't necessarily need to be a 10 rep max, but a 10 rep heavy. And the program, the lifting portion that we're doing on Monday is not necessarily about finding a 10 rep max. So if you don't get a true 10 rep max, that's okay. It's about the drop set. So the way this is gonna work is you guys will be working out of the rack with back squats. You can pair up, or you could even work in groups of 3. I think groups of 3 might even be ideal because you can strip the weights off a little bit easier. But let's say you're working in a group of 3. You're gonna have 1 athlete working and you'll have 2 athletes spotting / changing the weight. So 10 to 15 minutes to build up to a relatively heavy set of 10. Guys will be increasing the weight they use for that 15 minutes by 15 pounds on each side. So every set that you do will progressively get heavier by 30 pounds. For the ladies, you're gonna increase 10 pounds on each side for your sets as you're building up to a 10 rep heavy. So in total, if you add 10 to each side, you guys will be building 20 pound increments. So guys will be building in 30 pound increments with 15s on each side. Ladies will be building in 20 pound increments with 10s on each side. It doesn't really matter where you start. Some of you might even just start with an empty barbell, building up to that 10 rep heavy. But you need to do it in the appropriate weight increments. So you may not get all of the way to the end. That final barbell that's listed on Wodify says 285. That'd be pretty impressive if you could get a 10 rep at 285, but don't feel like you need to go all the way to the end. We're gonna be limited by certain ranges. So kind of another thing to keep tucked in the back of your mind is you're gonna have an initial set and then you're gonna drop by doing 4 more sets. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So over here on my bar, we've got some 15 pound plates on each side. I'm using 10s for demonstration purposes, but assuming we've got 15s on each side, each set as I'm building through my 10 rep max, I'll be adding 15 to each side because I'm a male. Once I achieve my 10 rep heavy, once I build up to a weight that was relatively difficult for me to do 10 reps of, then I'm gonna do my drop set. And this is where having the partners and or teams of 3 is gonna come in. So in theory, I've loaded 15 pounds on each side, building up to a 10 rep heavy. Now I've got my weight on the bar. Now I'm gonna do my drop set. So we're gonna do 5 reps at each weight, progressively getting lighter. So this is assuming I've already got my 10 rep heavy. I've got a bunch of 15s on each side. Now I'm gonna start my drop set. So it's gonna start just like you normally would, in the rack, shuffle step, get your feet locked in, brace with your core. I'm gonna start knocking out my 5 reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm gonna come into the rack. From here, this is where having the buddies is gonna be helpful. They're immediately gonna strip 15 pounds off each side. Me, the lifter, I'm gonna be waiting, watching them strip. As soon as they get it stripped and the clamps back on, boom. Right back underneath the bar, shuffle step, lock it in. I'm gonna knock out 5 more reps. 2, 3, 4, 5. Shuffle step, lock in the grid, and they'll strip off weight. You'll do that for 4 sets. So you're progressively gonna get lighter as you go, but the reps will stay exactly the same. Now, that drop set in total should probably take maybe a minute or two. So even if you're working with somebody that's not doing the same weight as you, that's okay, because you and your buddies are gonna be building in weight. Gentlemen will be adding 15s to each side, ladies will be adding 10s to each side. You're gradually gonna be building. You can kind of switch in and out as you're building. Once you and your team or your partners build to a 10 rep heavy, then you're gonna pick one athlete, and that athlete's gonna have to do the entire drop set. Then you'll load the weights back on to whatever the other person's 10 rep heavy was, and then they will do their drop set. So it's kind of like a 2-part lifting session on Monday. Establishing a 10 rep heavy, and then we'll do our drop set that has 4 more sets. So in total, your drop set will account for 20 reps. So you've got 4 sets of 5. It's 20 reps. The weight's gonna progressively get lighter throughout the drop set, but you're gonna have more and more fatigue in the muscles because of the weight that you're using. Now, we're only staying with 5 reps this time, 4 sets of 5, but this is something else that we can do in the future. Maybe we build to a 10 rep heavy, and then we go down in sets of 6 or 8 or 10, or progressively get heavier. I think this will be a really interesting tool. I think this will be something that we can start utilizing more in our training just in general with the drop sets. But remember, why are we doing this? To progressively overload the muscle. We can build up to a 5x5 and do really heavy 5 reps, and that's totally fine. But what I like about the drop set is it allows us to establish a relatively heavy weight at the beginning, and then we can progressively strip the weight off the bar, keep funneling blood into the muscle and nutrients into the muscle, or breaking down those muscle fibers so that they can build back up strong. I think you guys will like it. I'm anxious to get some feedback on you, and we'll see you on Monday.